Hello, everyone. Hope you're here already. Today, I'm here to talk about the topic that I'm so passionate about, active learning, and with a tweak. So, how can we use it in our online classes? Before I talk about anything, I would really like to know who are you and what are you doing here? One of the activities I usually do in my face-to-face classes is this one, in which I ask you about how you're feeling, something good that happened to you not so long ago, and so we start the class with a really positive mood. Here you have an example about me, and the activity would be to say your name. My name is Catalina. Where you located? I'm in Spain, and something good, even if it's tiny or you think it's not significant, but something good that happened to you. It could be anything. It could be my partner cooked dinner for me, or my son brought me a picture. In my case, I put something that happened to me last night. We were playing cards, and I won 2 times, and I felt really full of myself. And it was the first time I was seeing my family for many months. So if you're there, um, I would like you to write your name, where you're located, and something good that happened to you. Hopefully, this is going to be a very interactive chat. I know normally Facebook talks are not very interactive, but since I'm talking about active learning, I don't think it makes a lot of sense that I'm lecturing here. So be prepared to participate a lot, to share your ideas, to be part of this learning experience, because we are all learning together. Hello, Grasa. Sorry for my pronunciation. Hello, Teuta. Maybe I'm not pronouncing it well. From Skopje. Okay, that sounds exotic. Laura. Laura is a former student. Hello, Laura. And she's becoming a mom again. That's a really good thing that happened to you again. So think about something that happened to you recently that was positive. I'm sure there are many things. There have been so many changes and uncertainties lately. So I wanted to begin with something positive to start the mood here. And I'm sure you can find something that really resonates with this feeling, whatever it is, even if it's very small. It would be really nice to see and that you share it. Okay. So, Grasa Diaz, I imagine you are from Portugal, maybe. So we have someone from Spain, Laura, a former student, and I imagine Grasa is from Portugal. I think there's a little flag there from Portugal. And Teuta, maybe share something good that recently happened to you. Grasa the same. I'm sure you can find things. In my case, I think apart from the fact that it's been really crazy this month, I can find every day something good. So coming back while you're writing that, coming back to active learning and the way this presentation is gonna go, we are gonna go to a presentation style later from Madeira. Oh, gracias. I wish I could go there right now. It sounds like a natural beauty. So this is gonna be more about interaction. I'm gonna share my thoughts, my ideas about active learning online. Also, I'm gonna give you some ideas on specific activities that you can do with your students. And we are gonna end with a final reflection about what we have learned, how can we move forward with it, what can we do with the knowledge we have acquired. So without further delay, I'm gonna start talking about it. When I'm showing you the screen, the presentation screen, I may not see the messages. So wait until I'm in the full screen to ask your questions or give me your comments. After every section, I'm gonna stop and reflect about it. And I hope you can share your ideas and also your experiences with me. So bear that in mind that I may, uh, thank you, Grace is saying that I should go. Yes, please. That would be great. So I'm going to share the screen now. Be aware I may not see your messages, but after I finish the presentation of every section, I'm going to come back. Hello, Tatiana. I'm going to come back and we are going to interact. We are going to discuss things together. I think it's the best way to talk about active learning, interacting. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. And then you will start seeing, hopefully, the presentation. So a little bit about myself. My name is Catalina Castro, and I'm a teacher trainer at Europass. I basically arrived to active learning many years ago when I was a secondary teacher here in Spain. It came to me out of frustration, really, because I saw the lack of motivation of my students, and I always wanted to innovate and do new things, and started to research about how I could do these things to involve them more and to help them acquire not only competence but skills for life. And that's how 15 years ago I started my journey into active learning. I would like to know, what are the main problems that you face in your classes? Could you share some of the problems that you have in your classes? Because I wonder if you are from different countries, we share some similar problems. Usually, yes. I'm gonna check the messages here because I'm very interested to know what are your problems in your classes. When I was a teacher, my main problem was lack of engagement. I was teaching English as a foreign language, and usually, the head of the department gave me this textbook that we had to follow. There were always very mechanical activities. There were also communication tasks within one class, but many of the students didn't see the point, or how can they use English in real life in relation to the activities that we were doing. It seemed all the time we were preparing for tests. And I think that can happen in many other subjects, or most of the subjects nowadays, where schools are very oriented to testing. And I think that's one of the reasons why active learning is still not exploding and thriving and boosting in classes, because we are pressured as teachers, and the students are pressured, and even the parents are pressured to do this. So I wonder if there are some problems that we share all together. And while you're thinking about your problems, I would like to tell you what we're going to do today. First, I'm going to talk about the what and why of active learning. Very briefly, this is an introduction to the topic, obviously, in 40 minutes or even 1 hour that we're going to be here. We cannot cover everything about active learning, but I just want you to give you hints and reflection, hints to be able to move forward after this presentation and do some things on your own. Then I'm going to give you very specific sample ideas to do active learning activities online. And finally, as this is an active learning presentation, we're going to reflect about it. We're going to talk about how we see these activities? How could we use them? What is the value in them? And I think this is really important. Well, the what and why of active learning, um, I think it's very important to think about this before talking about the activities, because why should we care about active learning? What do you think active learning is? I think there are many definitions out there, but with this picture, I think it illustrates very well what is not, basically. And many times it's described as an opposition to something. On the left, you can see a normal class where students are sitting down and listen in a passive way. The teacher takes the front and is the one who has all the knowledge. And this metaphor has been used many times. The students are believed to be vessels, empty vessels that need to be filled with knowledge. Whereas in an active learning classroom, the knowledge and the learning is constructed individually and in the community by experiencing things, by interacting with others, by reflecting. So it's a very different scenario if you think about it. And we have been used, at least me, I'm 42 years old, and in my generation, all that I experienced was passive learning. So when I became a teacher, it was a little bit difficult sometimes to model active learning activities because I had not lived them myself as a student. So this is a huge difference of scenario. If we want to do active learning, is all about doing, students doing things rather than students listening. So this is some definition that I think is good. Active learning is an instructional method in which the teacher engages the learner in the material through discussion, problem solving, and hands-on skill building. And this is something I mentioned before. If traditional learning is done by listening or reading, active learning is done by doing. To learn, students need to do something in capital letters. So how can we do this? I guess is the question. And one thing that like sometimes surprises me is that people think this is a new trend. Active learning is definitely not a new trend. It's been here for more than 100 years now. I think you will be acquainted with all of these important thinkers and teachers and philosophers that we all know. John Dewey is one of the fathers of the constructivism. Rudolf Steiner. That's why nowadays we have all these Waldorf Steiner schools that they approach learning more through experience and the senses, and especially the autonomy of students. Similarly, Maria Montessori, that has obviously has had a lot of impact in the history of education. She also promoted kids learning on their own by exploring sort of discovery learning, and it was very important to follow their own pace. Jean Piaget talk a lot about the development stages of the child and also learning through interaction and on your own. And Paulo Freire talk about similar things. So this happened 100 and something years ago. There are more active learning proponents, more recent, but I just wanted you to be aware that this is not a new trend. This has been said and evidence-based by research for more than 100 years. And I guess the question for me would be, okay, if this was so clear for more than 100 years, why is not happening, is not widespread at schools at the moment? That's the question for me. And I asked my question many times as a teacher and then afterwards as a researcher. And I think the answer, it's a little bit difficult. I would say that it is more challenging in terms of investment in human resources and money to do active learning activities. Also, we are in a crisis of education where we are all rethinking the educational systems. So basically, what we have done for 100 years has many flaws, and it hasn't worked so well. And these philosophers and these really prominent people in education were saying, well, there's another way to do it. There's another way that is faster and works better. So now I would like you to discuss. So I'm going to come back to the full screen. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see you and your messages, and maybe discuss a little bit about this. So I wonder if you use some active learning activities already in your classes. Is there anyone here who can share any active learning activities? Anyone who has done something that is about discussion, interaction, maybe projects, group work, hands-on activity, exploration, discovery. Does any one of you have done any activity that you can share? In my case, I really specialize in project-based learning, which is one of the methodologies that is considered more active, because they have to answer a really complex question. They have to create. They have to apply skills. So that's something that I've been working for a long time, and I think it works really well. I wonder if you have been trying to work on some active learning activities. Any ideas that have worked for you? Things that you think, oh, I did this and it really worked, or I tried this and it was really challenging. It was hard. Any ideas that you have? Anything that you want to share? Things that maybe you want to try, maybe not, you haven't done it yet, but you would like to try. Okay. So if you don't have any ideas right now, don't worry, because we're gonna see some examples that I think can be useful for you to use in your classes. Okay. So I'm gonna come back to share my screen to show you some examples of things that you could do. Hopefully that can help for you to do more active learning classes. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen again. Right, I hope you can see now the presentation again. So this is one question that I asked myself about online learning, because we were talking about active learning. How can that be more effective and fast, and also help students to acquire some skills? But then I wonder, how can we do that when we are not face to face? How can we do active learning activities online? And this is a question I think many of you have wondered, because you just had to start teaching online suddenly because of the COVID-19. And many of you weren't trained in doing that, or the students weren't used to doing that. You had to learn new tools, new methodologies, and sometimes it was like, or all the time, I would say, as far as I've heard, it's been really stressful for everyone. So if we stop and think without the stress of having to cover everything in just 3 months like it has happened, if we stop and think, okay, but what are the opportunities here? What are the opportunities to use online learning in my classes? Because it has been seen by many, I think, and I understand it, as a stressful factor, or even something that can make it more difficult for you to teach because you're not there face to face. But there are also opportunities in online learning. And there's the possibility of using active learning in the online medium. And I think I personally see some opportunities here. The first one is you can learn anywhere and depending on how you're teaching, anytime. So if you have virtual classes and you have schedule, and maybe not anytime, but sometimes you can do that and then ask students to work on something, on a task or a project, the time or the pace they want. And that's a big advantage since it will cater for different learning styles and different paces in learning. Because sometimes, in my case, for instance, I really struggle with maths, but I'm very fast with reading or languages. So it will give the students the opportunity to either spend more time in something that is hard for them, or the opposite, or go deeper and go further in a topic that they usually in class finish really fast. You always have in class the student who is finishing before anyone else, or the opposite. You have the students who struggle and take more time, and it's sometimes difficult to handle when you are a teacher and you have, I don't know, 25, 30, 35 students in a class. So technology can really help with that. And also another possibility or opportunity that I see is that you can have more personalized time and attention with your students. If you're using Teams or Google Classroom or any other platform that you have at your school, you can sort of oversee better what every student is doing, and also communicate um, with more time, with the ability to really give them advice on what to do, rather than sometimes we are in the class and we have a lot of pressure because we have to move on with topics, and it's really difficult to stop and spend 10 minutes with one student. So I think technology in this sense can really help to personalize learning too. Then another opportunity I see, and this is my project-based learning mind, because I'm very fond of doing projects with my students, is the capacity that they have to share what they produce online with a wider audience, really, because sharing with your class becomes like sharing with your family. You know all of them, and when you think, oh, I'm gonna share it with a bigger audience, then you're like, wow, this is serious. Many people are going to see this. So students get more motivated by sharing things online. So it's a good thing that using technology, they can share things. And in terms of active learning activities, there are so many activities that they can do that involve creating, that involve manipulating, that involve applying things. There are so many possibilities there when you have technology to reach so many more people and to motivate them because of that. Then another thing in terms of, from the point of view of the teacher too, is that you can give really fast and prompt feedback and assessment. Is way easier to be faster with assessment and give feedback immediately. And sometimes it's difficult to do that when you're face to face, especially when you have many students. Whereas online, it's very easy. using the tools that you have to send messages, private messages, or to do activities that are individual. So you see how the student is doing particularly, and you can send immediate feedback. And also, the last one I want to comment on is, I think, super important, and I think many of us, we oversee it, and is digital literacy. Why am I saying this? Well, I think many of us, we think that the kids, because they are digital natives and they use a lot of technology, we think that they can actually use technology in every way and they do it properly. But then we discover many times that they don't. They don't know what sources to trust. Really, they take every source usually as a valid source, and as you know, that is not okay in order to learn, make your mind about an argument, or basically not to be manipulated by, for instance, fake news. They struggle to use technology that is not related to social networks, in which they are very proficient. So sometimes they actually need help with using all the technology that is educational based or that they're going to need in the future for work, but they necessarily don't use at the moment. Sometimes I found some of my students not knowing how to send an email. This is not something I just invented. It happened to me. So don't assume that they know how to use technology in a way that is really gonna help them grow and be critical thinkers. I think that you should assume that you should check if they actually need help with that. And especially, I think the key point here is to help them understand what are trusted sources, because I think that's a big issue right now. So I'm just gonna maybe showcase very briefly some ideas for you. I'm gonna talk about ideas to do with a large group, ideas to do with a small group, and ideas to do with individuals. So there's so many. I just chose a few that I thought it could be interesting for you. So the first one is discussion forums. Discussion forums are very common in any LMS that you're using, like Moodle, for instance, if that's what you're using, or even if you're using Edmodo, you could do that. There are also some special apps for discussion forums that you can use, like Kialo or Now Comment or Go Teach. And this is a very good activity in terms of getting them thinking, getting them active mentally, discussing things, questioning things. I think it's essential to learn anything. I follow many times the Socratic method and help my students learn through questions. And I think that's a very good way to learn. You don't only learn by questioning yourself, but you learn from the answers of the others. So in that sense, this can be something that you could do regularly, very easily, using the platform that you already have or other apps. Another one that I don't know if you will be aware is the fishbowl. I think this one can be even weird and awkward and funny, but it has many advantages in terms of learning how to listen to others and also paying attention to what someone is saying. So the fishbowl is basically, it's the metaphor of the fishbowl is that you have a fishbowl and there's some fish inside. So some students get inside the fishbowl in a circle in real life, not online. And then the rest of the group is outside and they cannot talk. So they're just listening to them discussing a question or a text or something you want them to discuss. And for a few minutes, the outer circle is listening and the inner circle is talking. And then in the end, they all discuss it and they comment on what they thought about what they say. So they were just in silence and listening, while the outer circle and the inner circle were actively participating. So you can do this online very easily when you're using your video conferencing classes, like in Zoom. If you're using a one or Teams or Google Meet, any video conferencing app you're using, you can assign to some students to discuss this topic, and then the others will be actively listening and maybe taking notes. And in the end, there will be a whole class or whole group, depending how many you have. If you have too many students, then there will be groups of maybe 10 or maybe 8 students. And they separate in break rooms and they discuss what they have talked about or they have listened to. And this one is really interesting to make people aware of how other people talk, how they express their opinions, and the value in listening too. So another one that I want to propose, obviously, is debates. Debates are great to spark critical thinking, to discuss things that are happening to them, maybe in their community or happening at the school. And they can be done in different ways. Sometimes you can assign roles. You can assign a role that is defending a statement and another role that is against the statement. And the rest can be maybe collecting feedback on how the debate is going, and there could be a jury. So this one leads to a lot of interaction and is very interesting. And finally, and this is a little bit broad, co-create learning materials, meaning ask them to create things online. This is harder than doing a test. This is harder than repeating what they have read, but it's actually a deeper learning experience because they have to apply the knowledge and they have to show that they have learned by applying that knowledge and creating something. That something can be something like a wiki, a blog, a website, a Facebook page. They can use Padlet to collect resources and share it with the class. They can even create something together, something physical, and then share it. So there's so many possibilities here, but especially when we're talking about a large group interaction, we want them to discuss, to debate, to think about the possibilities of things. Then when you have a smaller group, there are many other possibilities too. One that I use a lot with my students is the think, pair, share. So this one is one that you can use regularly. Doesn't get old, in my opinion. So it consists of first, you pose a question about maybe the topic you're talking about, and they have to think about it. And in real life, in face-to-face, they will have to write it on a paper for a minute, the answer. In the digital medium, it's very easy. They can have another document open, for instance, a Word document, and for a minute, they will write the answer individually. Then you put them in pairs. You can do that also with break rooms in Zoom, and they discuss what they have answered orally. Finally, they share what they have discussed to the whole group of the class. In this way, with this simple activity, they are having 3 different dynamics: individual, pair, small group, and the whole group in the end. And this can be done for any topic that you want them to think about. It can be used to introduce a new topic too, or even in the end as a reflection for maybe the whole class. Another one that I propose, and it's a little bit risky sometimes, but it's worth trying and navigating it, is peer review. Peer review is about students assessing or giving feedback. It does not have to be assessing, it can be feedback or formative assessment to each other. This is important because we humans, we learn a lot from each other. So having a mentor, who is usually the teacher, is very important. because we are guides, we are facilitators, but there are also comments and things that a peer can see that maybe we won't see, or it will have a different value than what we say to the student. So it's a really useful tool, peer review. Online, it can be done with just maybe send Google Docs, and then they come back to you, and then you give the feedback to the student, you assign peer review. In Moodle, there is a peer review function or activity type if you have Moodle. Is basically in face-to-face, it will be, giving them maybe pieces of paper with privately with the names of the student, and that can be replicated very easily online. It has a lot of value. The fact that I say it's risky is because you need also to train them to give constructive feedback. There is a risk here that the peer review is not constructive or respectful. So you will have to facilitate that to help them understand how you give constructive feedback. And this is a skill for life, I think. I guess you have found in your working life situations in which you received feedback that wasn't constructive, and how it affected you and hurt you or impact your work. So this is a skill that we want students to really practice for life. Another one that I think is fun, solving a mystery, or even a case study or a problem. No, you give them this mystery or the thing that they have to solve, and you put them in small groups, and they have to brainstorm ideas and find solutions. And then maybe all of the groups have a representative, and they share it either through video conferencing or if you have a discussion forum. And this can be really engaging and really fun. And with doing this, they can actually use a lot of higher order thinking skills and critical thinking. So I really recommend you to do this, and you can sort of align this with some subjects, I'm sure. Can be aligned with history a lot, with languages, even with sciences if you want. So it's just how you tell the story. Sometimes, if you tell the story in a way that is asking them directly to interact and to help, you're asking for help. Please help me solve this. Is more engaging than just giving the information in a text. Finally, another of the small group ideas I want to give you is brainstorming. This one is very simple. You pose a question, and then students write the first thing that comes to their mind. The difference with the former one is that the former one, they have some time to think about it, and they can have a strategy, you can guide them. But in brainstorming, it's just, tell me what you think right now. And this is interesting because in real life, you could do it with Post-its. You can have a board or in the wall and give them Post-its, and you say, okay, you have 1 minute to give me as many ideas as you want. And you can do that online too. You can use the chat box if you're having a video conference, for instance, and then all of them can see what the others are thinking. So this can be very engaging and also helping a lot to figure out what they can do, and how enriching it is to do it together, because you can feed from each other with ideas from each other, so you can promote also collaboration. So finally, some ideas that are individual to do on your own. The first one, very simple, 1 minute reflection. In class, you could do it on a piece of paper. Online, again, you can do it in a private message, or you can ask them to share it and put it in the chat box if you're using any platform. So it's about thinking for a minute about a question that incites reflection at the end of the class, maybe, or maybe in the middle of the class when you're going to change the topic. Before you move to another topic, you can do this activity. Then another fun activity And I think this is very engaging and taps on many ideas from active learning. Is turn the tables, meaning the student is the teacher here. So you can assign one of the students, each of the students, a topic, and then they share it with their peers. It can be done sharing to a small group. I recommend that first, especially, so it's not so stressful as sharing to the whole class. So you can assign, for instance, in a group of 5 or 6, they will keep being the same group for the whole semester, and then each week or each maybe 2 weeks, one of them has to prepare a topic. So they can prepare links, resources, a presentation that they can do orally online to their group. And I have done actually this activity a lot using some of flipped classroom ideas. So they have to research, and I guided them a little bit, and then they go to the class and present it to the students, to their group only. So in the end, there is not a lot of stress on everyone, because maybe you are assigned to do this week, but for the next 6 weeks or 8 weeks, it will be the others learning on a topic and explaining it to you. So while you're presenting it, it will be important also that the other students give feedback. It's again constructive feedback, important that they know how to. One technique that I use a lot, and it's very simple. If you learn these words, and they just use them, especially when you're not used to giving feedback in a constructive way, it can really help. So every feedback will begin and will be made of at least 3 sentences. The first one: I like this that you have said. I like this that you have talked about. The other one will be I wonder. So something you didn't understand very well. And finally, I suggest. So there are not negative comments really, but rather you want to be proactive about proposing solutions if this is something that does not work for you. The third one would be complete turn taking. That is very interesting, because then you are allowing students to take the lead in their learning path. So they're bringing their own questions to the class. You may propose a topic, or you may ask, hey, about this topic, please think about questions you've had during this month or something. And then they bring the questions to the class. And it's interesting because you're not going to be the one answering the question straight away. They tell everyone the question, and then someone that you assign to in real life, it could be someone on your left, someone on your right. But in online learning, you can do it in a different way. And then it is the other students who answer the question. And then so forth, you do it with a few of the students asking the questions, and then the others are answering, so it's not you. And in the end, as a big group, you can talk about it. And finally, this is related to what I said before. You can ask them to individually, so it's possible to do it in a small group too, to create learning products. And also, if you have some creative students, tap on their creative ability. So the ones who can make videos, the ones who draw and make comics, the ones who create music. There are many kids now who are learning with digital apps how to create music. The ones who like to tap with their hands and create things with their hands. They can show you how to make something, for instance. So there are many possibilities here, and this really is so useful because you want them when they grow up, obviously, to create things and to create solutions for real life problems. So this is really preparing them to do that. Also, it's giving them so many skills. So whatever they're creating, they will need an array of skills there that they will be working on. So this is one of the things I prefer to do in most of my classes, even my teacher training classes. I ask all of my students to create something at the end of the class. And usually it turns really well because they feel that they know better because they have done it, because they have applied, because they have created something with the knowledge they have learned. So I wonder if some of these ideas could help you, if some of these ideas um, are useful for you. Okay. Um, as before, if you have any strategy that you think is really useful, please let me know, and let's share it now. I'm gonna stop sharing the screen and let's see if you can share some ideas of things that you have done recently. So I can see that Laura said that this year has not been the best to experience much. In my case, I have had to focus on the syllabus. Well, this is a problem that we all have. There is a lot of pressure from institutions and from the government for us to cover the syllabus. And sometimes we wonder, so what is the time to do active learning or other activities that are more engaging that usually always take more time than lecturing? Well, I think it's a question of priorities. So if you have to cover the syllabus sometimes, it's difficult to do other types of activities. But in my experience, it's possible to do a few at least. It is sad that I have to say that because I understand the pressures of working for an institution and they're asking you to do a task. And even if you don't believe it's useful, you have to do it. But I think I'm hopeful about how that is changing, and there are more and more schools who are trying to move away from that and focus on helping students to learn skills that are really useful. I think it's possible. I know it's possible. There are many schools already around the world who are using projects as the main means of education. There are also many schools that have been for many years, decades, like Waldorf Steiner or Montessori. They have been using active learning. They have been using it for so many years, and it has been so successful. But sometimes we feel we are not protected or supported by our environment, so it's difficult to bear to implement or to have the time to implement these activities. Oh, and Laura is saying that after she was in our training, she took some of the suggestions. Interesting. Okay. And she has done fishbowl. Good. And think per share too, because all the most of the strategies I was talking about before, I use them in my teacher trainings because I feel I cannot preach for you to use strategies that I know using myself. So, and I think, and I know they're actually very effective. So in my trainings, I showcase them, and I do them with the teachers. So yeah, Laura says that she really liked it. And she also elaborated a document that gathers the activity. Wow, Laura. That's quite amazing. I am very surprised. So, well, I hope this brief introduction gave you some ideas, some things that you can take home and really use them for your classes. I hope that even if there are only a few of us here, oh, okay, I have someone coming in, Irida from Albania, Laura saying thank you. So I hope that the reflection that we can do from today is about things that we have learned that you can take to your classes. I would like to know if any of you want to share from this presentation, what was useful for you? What do you think you can take with you and use it in your classes? I hope there are things that you can take and that you can use and that will help with the motivation and with the engagement of your students online, or all of them can be done face to face too, not only online. But I think, as I said, that there's so many opportunities. Is there anything that you want to share that you think it was useful for you, that it helped you for your classes, that you would like to share from this presentation? Any activity that resonated with you and said, wow, yeah, I could do that. That would be something that I could do. I think Laura mentioned that she's done fishbowl and think fair share, and you can do both of them online actually. So we can do most of the activities, all of the activities you can think of in active learning online. And that is what I would like to maybe go deeper in the course I have with Europass online. I want to think about how can we do this? How can we design a class online in which we implement active learning activities? What is the process? What is the how to do it? And also, I would like to talk about how can you do it in your own class, and basically create a project in which you design at least one class or unit using active learning strategies with digital technology. So, well, I think that is all from me. And thank you very much for coming here, for listening to me. I hope this was really helpful, and I think it was a really interesting experience for me. It's the first time that I do a Facebook talk. It feels a little bit like I'm talking to myself, but when I see your comments and I see your engagement, it's really nice to know that in many parts of the world you're there, interested in changing education for the better. So thank you very much, and hopefully see you soon. If you have any questions or anything, please contact Europass. I will be happy to help you with anything you need. See you soon. Bye bye.